Good shot, kid. I think you got him. Good shot, kid. I think you got him.
Hello there, and welcome back to some more Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Today we'll continue on with Let's Play, and this is episode 25. In today's episode, we are taking a look at the Paramedic side mission, which can be activated in any ambulance around San Andreas. A returning side mission from GTA 3 and Vice City, and of course, a fan favourite. I'd say that sarcastically. I've had to suffer through this twice now, once in GTA 3, where it was absolutely horrific, and once in GTA Vice City where it was a little bit easier but still pretty traumatizing. Here in San Andreas, however, though, Paramedic has been made a lot easier, and that's because of the introduction of the countryside. Or what am I talking about? Well, if you decide to do this side mission in Los Santos, San Fierro or Las Venturas, you'll have to pick up patients from around the city. You have to drive all around the city and grab the patients in these very populated cities, where there is increased risk of damaging the ambulance. You can't exit the ambulance for whatever reason, and you cannot repair the ambulance because, according to the paint spray, it's too hot. However, if you decide to do it here in Angel Pine, you only have to pick up the stricken residents of Angel Pine, which is a very small village and quite easy to navigate, and also pretty unpopulous. So that's what I recommend doing. As you can see, it is much easier. There is a lot less travel time between patients, which means there's a lot less sort of time to have incidents, and it just makes it a hell of a lot easier. Also, what makes it easier is the fact that the new physics engine that San Andreas has is an improvement over GTA 3 and Vice City. The ambulance was very roll prone in those games, and while it's still, you can roll it, no doubt, it does feel a lot more weighty. It feels like there's more to keep it on the ground. It feels more secure, and also it's slightly more durable in this game than it was in those previous games. So, with that all being explained, let's quickly run down what Paramedic is. Essentially, you have to pick up injured people and transport them to the hospital. You get a time bonus. You've got to do this in a limited time. You get a time bonus for every time you pick someone up, and also you get a time bonus when you drop off your first load at the hospital. However, past that point, you won't get any more seconds, although you will for still picking the people up. There's 12 levels total, and each level increases the number of people you have to pick up. Of course, there's only 3 seats in the ambulance, which means once you get past level 3, when you have to pick up 4 people, you essentially have to do 2 drops, and then it sort of goes and goes and goes until you get to level 12, where you have to do 4 total of 3 people. Much like with Firefighter, the max level is level 12. Once you get to level 12, you will get the reward, which is a maxed out health bar, which is pretty useful, I will certainly say, especially at this point in the game. However, you can actually earn this passively, which is interesting. You might notice your max health sort of gets a little bit of a buff as time goes on, and if you play this game enough, eventually you will get enough of the buff to where your health bar will be maxed, as it would be if you decide to complete Paramedic. So if you're past that point, all you'll get is another check towards 100% completion. So with that all being explained now, we'll speed it up because you don't need to see much more of this at normal speed. You'll get a pretty decent idea of what you're supposed to do in sped up fashion. Yeah, it is pretty much identical to the Vice City iteration of this. There's no added difficulty. There's also no added thing to make it any easier other than the aforementioned physics and the new countryside setting, which I don't know if it was intentional by Rockstar to make this a lot easier by doing it out here, but there you go. I will also say, while I can't prove it per se, other places in the countryside should work for this. I believe it is Montgomery has a hospital, so it might work out there, although I haven't heard any reports of doing that, because that is a smaller town, so that should in theory work better, but if no one's doing that, then maybe it doesn't quite work. And also Fort Carson was the other place I thought of, because that does have a hospital. It's also a pretty similar size to Angel Pine, but the effects of doing it out in the country, or out in the desert, I should say, might be a little bit nil and void, because by that time your health bar should be more encroaching on the maximum, whereas if you do it now, you get a decent boost of cash and also so on. Also, I should mention, you can't kill the patients, so don't run them over on the way to them. Try to approach them carefully. They will take a bit of damage. You might notice I knocked someone over a minute ago, and they were fine, but I wouldn't risk that one too much if I was being perfectly honest. So yeah, Paramedic, a lot easier of a time in this game, and also a lot less time consuming. I will say, I think this took me about 20 to 25 minutes. Depending on your spawns, you should be around the same time. If this takes you, you know, more than half an hour, I would be surprised. So that's a much, that is an improvement over GTA 3 and Vice City, where it was about, well, it was 40 something minutes for GTA 3 because I commentated the entire thing, because well, it was much more suffering in that game. And in Vice City it took about an hour, and I did speed that up because it's pretty much identical to GTA 3 if you've seen that LP. So yeah, as I said, there's not really too much more to say about this. I will say the sirens as well, something worth pointing out, because it's an ambulance, it's equipped with sirens. It is your choice as to whether you use them or not. I personally did, because I prefer it, although I will say, if you see a large group of traffic towards where your patient is, it might be worth turning them off, because the AI do act slightly erratic when you have your sirens on. When they try to pull over to the other side of the road, they do a little bit of a crap job of it, because the AI aren't really sorted out for that too well. So do bear that in mind if you see sort of a truck there where one of your patients are. Maybe consider turning the sirens off, but I didn't really have too much issues with that. Also, as you can see, you can run them over after you've dropped them off to no real issues. The money provided from this isn't too awful. I will say, as far as side missions to make you money, up to this point, Firefighter is the best one. I'm probably going to have to redo that for some grinding out in San Fierro, but we'll see if I find a better tactic or not. I can't say I've ever really looked up money making guides on this game as a kid, because I just used to do the Hiso Yam, get $250,000, but of course this is an LP, we don't cheat in these, we do it the manly way, which is the incredibly boring grindy way, so there you go. But yeah, there's not really too much more to say about this. The Angel Pine method has been one pretty easily utilised by speedrunners, and of course it's something that's pretty well known at this point, although I do have to say, when I first learned about this, I was pretty mind blown when it comes to this. As you can see, I had a slight run-in with potential trucks trying to run my people over, which wouldn't have been so grand. But yeah, definitely the way I would do this. You can do it in the city if you really want to. You can do it in Los Santos and get yourself a hell of a lot of health early on if you really want to, but I think I've tried doing it in Los Santos once. I got to about level 10, and then I think one of my guys got ran over, or I accidentally ran them over, and I don't think I've played this game again for about 6 months. So I wouldn't do that if I was you, but you know, you are open to your own interpretation. Also, I will say, the later levels seem to give you more of a second bonus. I actually find the later levels are easier than the sort of levels where you only have to drop one patient off as time goes on. But anyway, as you can see there, your maximum health has increased. We've got a nice big healthy health bar there, and an interesting fact about this health bar, I didn't believe it at first, but it turns out it is actually true. As long as you have full health on that bar, you can survive any drop in the game, which is actually pretty useful. So you don't even really need to use a parachute, although that's sort of a one-time deal. You do have to eat and stuff to get this health bar back up, but once you do, you have a nice healthy health bar, and that is good and certainly useful for certain missions in this game where you may have to take on a lot of punishment. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. Infinite Sprint has instead been moved over to the burglary side missions, which we will cover at some point later on. So anyways, as you can see, I'm just going to fill out the health bar here. But while I do that, I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you all very much for watching. Next time, we are going to be taking a look at the oysters that we need to collect in the murky waters of the countryside. So join us for that. Thank you all very much for watching. Until then, farewell.
Speeding all around. The Naked 47 got the power in his bell to move any mother that gets in my way. Just another power machine. machine on the freeway. Riding with me is my MC homeboy. Knowing the rules ain't part of his program. Finding the right way around this map might be pretty hard, cause he's fucked on crack. G, Grand Theft